Well, I've got a busier workbench than usual here. And as you can see, it looks a little bit like German Fest because I've got two PFAFF 332s side by side. And also, if you can just barely see it on the bottom here, I've got a PFAFF motor assembly as well that was sent to me from Torrance, California, from Brendan. And Brendan had heard about me optimizing motors and foot controls. I don't need the whole machine. I just need the motor and the foot control, and then when I return it to the customer, they reinstall it, which on the PFAFF is really quite easy. There's 4 screws that basically hold it, and then 2 little wires, and I'll kind of zoom in that a little bit and kind of show you that. But these also came from another customer, this one on the left, and the one on the left has a lot of challenges. I'll read you the note from the customer so you can get an idea of the extent of opportunities with that machine. The one to the right of it, as you're looking at my workbench, is a donor machine that I'm incorporating into the process of getting this machine fixed and restored for Brian. And Brian happens to be out of Washington State because he wants to have a machine that's fully operational. And here's his list of opportunities that he attached to the machine when he shipped it to me. So he writes, "Dear Scott, my PFAFF 332 has a number of opportunities. Number 1, no power cord, no foot control. The motor runs, but that's all it does. It doesn't move at all. There's broken knobs. There's knobs that are stiff. There's upper tension that is wrecked. The light is broken. And there's 2 or 3 more things, if that's not a long enough list already." So for Brian at least, sometimes the repairs and the restoration is so extensive, I don't have the parts on hand to do it. So I had to acquire this donor machine to pull parts off of it and or pull parts off of Brian's machine. So we end up with a fully operational PFAFF 332. So needless to say, that's a project unto itself. And I also have Maria's out of California as well, but Maria's is not a PFAFF. It's a Singer 99K that she shipped to me a while back. So between those 2.5 machines, 3 machines, depending on how you count the PFAFFs behind me, and then this motor that was sent to me from Brendan out in Torrance, California, I'm a busy boy. And there's a number of other machines as well, kind of in the wings, waiting to jump on the workbench. So, but what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to zoom in for you on this motor and cover a couple of things for you. And again, when it comes to motors and foot controls, if your machine is not performing up to par, if you're watching videos of my machine on YouTube and you're going, I've got the same size motor, I've got the same make, I've got the same model, and mine isn't even coming close to what Scott's machine can do, then pack up that motor and that foot control, if you can, ship it to me, and for much less money than buying a new machine and much less money than shipping me the whole machine, I can optimize that motor and foot control. And when you put it back on your machine, assuming your machine otherwise is mechanically sound, you're going to be amazed about the performance difference in what your machine can do. I know Brendan is going to be like, wow, when he gets his motor and foot control back for his PFAFF 332. So let me zoom in on that a little bit, and I'm going to put the opportunity list back on Brian's 332. I feel like one of the festivals that I really enjoy, and some of you know that I served in the military and I had the opportunity to be over in Germany for 3 years. And I loved going to German festivals. And with all this German machinery on my workbench right now, it's kind of like a mini festival almost. So what you're seeing right there is obviously a PFAFF 332 motor. This is the one that Brendan sent me from Torrance, California. So when it came to me, it had the foot control, it had the motor. How do you power something like this up? How do you get it powered up? Well, the easiest way to power it up is if you zoom right I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit and show you. Give me just a second here. I had a spider climbing on my camera. That was really creepy. Okay, so right here, if I zoom in really close, you can see right here I connected 2 leads to the base plate connection on Brendan's motor. And that's the simplest way to power a 332 motor. If it's apart from the host machine, you have to carefully strip wires. There's 2 screws right on top. You can just barely see the one on the right. The other one, it looks like it's deformed a little bit, but there's a screw down in there that screws straight down to slide those leads in to power that motor board. And you want to be careful. Why do you want to be careful? Let me zoom out just a little bit and I'll show you. Once you connect that power lead to that motor junction point right there where the electricity goes in, let me flip my screen around so I can see what you're seeing. You got to be real careful because you then have the equivalent of an open outlet with power coming to it. I'm going to take my little electricity tester right here and show you what I mean. If I put one contact on each one very carefully, see that magical orange light? That means we've got electricity running to that motor. So you want to be extremely careful whenever you're dealing with electricity. I can't emphasize that enough. And if you're not comfortable trying something like this, where let's say you're at a sale or otherwise, and there's not a way to test that motor, you can set up a motor like this very easily with just a simple household cord, as long as it's doesn't have any frays, any breaks or anything like that. Again, you're going to insert it in those 2 holes once you back out those screws a little bit, and then you'll screw those screws down on top of that bare wire so that you've got a good sound electrical contact. Okay? So at that point, if I zoom out a little bit, it's not too difficult at that point, assuming you have a foot control. Right over there, I've got it connected. I've got the foot control on the ground so you can't see that. But I can easily walk over right now and I can push on Brendan's foot control and we should see that motor spin up. Okay, so that's straightforward enough. What, however, happens if you have a motor but you don't have a foot control? Let's say you come across an extra motor, you have a machine that you buy real cheap and you're not sure if the motor works or not because you don't have a foot control. The PFAFF foot controls are extremely unique in how they connect. You can see this connection. If I zoom out a little bit, you can see the connection, how it slides in over that connecting post that's part of that motor plate right over there. So it's not like a standard foot control where you can easily adapt foot controls. This one has a very specific way of connecting. So what do you do then? What if you want to test a motor and you're comfortable enough with connecting the leads like this so you can power that motor plate, but you're like, well, I don't have a foot control. How the heck do I test to see if this motor is any good, if it's shot, if it's worth the investment as a backup motor for my machine? Well, let me show you a trick. And again, this is totally based on your comfort level. I don't want you to try this if you're not comfortable doing it. Look at my finger. Don't try this unless you're comfortable doing it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect the power source to this motor, okay? And I would expect you to do the same thing. So right now, if we come over here with my little electrical contact, my little tester, and I touch it to those same leads before where you saw that orange, notice now, no light, which means no power. So I want you to be safe if you decide to try to follow any of these tips or tricks. in operating a motor, as I've shown you, to test it, or operating it without a foot control. So basically you can see inside of here, you've got two prongs basically that slide into that housing over here, and then when you push the foot control, it completes the circuit, and that's what powers the motor. By pressing that foot control, you complete a circuit. It's connected by this, and you're good to go. You hear that motor fire up and you're like, yeah, I'll pay you whatever you're asking, within reason for that motor, because I know it works. But the person that has the motor now says, I don't have that PFAFF foot control. I don't have one. So you're just going to have to take me on my word that I'm pretty sure this motor works. Well, if I'm going to invest 30 or 40 bucks in a motor like this, and I may never see that potential seller again, if it's a face-to-face deal or whatever, I want to be more confident than that it's going to work. So a simple way to do this, and again, it's based on your comfort level, without a foot control, you can complete that circuit using an insulated piece of wire that's stripped on either end. You're going to slide it into the same point that you would the foot control, and what it will do is it will engage that motor. Now, when you complete a circuit like this, it's the equivalent of pushing that foot control down full throttle. So when I make this connection, that motor is going to roar to life, and it's going to go to the peak RPMs. So because I don't want to overindulge the motor, I'm not going to do it for an extended period of time. I'm going to do it just to demonstrate that this is a go-around, this is a bypass. If you're wanting to test a motor and you do not at that point in time have access to a proper foot control for this type of motor assembly, okay? So what I'm going to do right now, I've already off camera plugged the power back in, and you can see that again if we test the lead very carefully. You can see that we're going to get that glowing orange again, and you're going to see that that power is active. Can you see that? Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, you can see it in the camera. I'm looking up there as well. Okay, so we want to treat that with respect. Electricity is dangerous, and we want to be extremely careful. So what I'm going to recommend, if you're comfortable doing this, is I'm going to twist those ends a little bit, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully come in from the side and watch what happens. Again, we do not have access to a foot control, so we are going to do a bypass go around. Here we go. Got it? So what we just did is we used a single piece of wire to act as a surrogate foot control so we could test this motor to see that it works. Obviously you wouldn't want to try sewing like that, because how are you going to do that? You're going to hold the wire and then you're going to try to manage the material underneath the needle and the presser foot. Not realistic, but it's a diagnostic go around so that you're not in a position where you have to go on a leap of faith that a motor is going to work if you don't have access to a foot control. Okay, so that's just a tip, and I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the power from Brendan's motor. And what I typically do with a motor like this, and I won't go into all the details, but I'll tell you that what I'm going to do for Brendan's motor, so when he gets it back, it's going to serve him well, is I'm obviously going to replace the motor brushes. That's number one. And then any potential contact that's on this motor, and I can touch the motor now without fear because I have it unplugged. Any contact on that motor where electricity is going to flow through it is a contact point that needs to be cleaned, and oil, dirt, junk, garbage needs to be removed from it. Electricity is like anything else. It's a powerful force, but if there's something getting in the way of its flow, it reduces and it de-optimizes the flow of that electricity so that that motor does not perform at peak level. So that is the layman's level explanation of what I do. If you're curious about sending your motor in, I'm going to optimize it. And I'm also going to target that foot control as well. Now, if you're in a position that for whatever reason, all at that point you have is the motor, as I've shown you, I can do a bypass, I can do a go around to optimize that motor while you're either replacing your foot control or sourcing a foot control or whatever. So, but ideally, having that foot control, having that motor is critical so that those two components can be optimized together and they can complement each other from a performance standpoint and maximize what your sewing machine can do. Okay? So, this is the end of this video clip highlighting this German fest on my workbench, this PFAFF motor from Brendan out in Torrance, California, and also this machine that Brian sent me that has so many opportunities, and the clone or the donor machine that I'm going to use to try to make Brian's machine whole again. So also again, if Maria is watching this video, Maria, your 99K is next in line. So I'll be doing a video shortly highlighting what I've accomplished on your machine, and then we'll get it sent back out to California so you can enjoy it. So, all right, well, thanks for watching. I'm going to end this video with a little bit of a light show. See if I can reconnect the foot control, which again is the best way to operate a motor. I'm going to click a couple of my lights off. I'm going to plug that power source back in so that Brendan's motor obviously has power, which might prove to be helpful. You never know, right? I'm going to click off my other workbench light, and I'm going to shut off the main light in my workspace. This could be spooky, so hold somebody's hand if you're afraid of the dark. All right? Holy mackerel. That's maybe too much. Maybe I'll have to turn on one light, because my camera is right now saying, I can't see a thing, bud. So there we go. I guess my camera isn't set for low light. So hopefully you'll be able to see this. I'm going to see if I can zoom in even closer, because I love the miraculous miracle of what can happen with electricity and a properly charged motor. And I'm going to carefully hold the bottom of this plate so that I'm not at risk of getting any kind of a shock, or this will become a different type of light show, if you know what I mean. So let me see if I can get it lined up. That should be pretty good right there, I think. I hope you can see it, because it's way cool. And here we go. Can you see those? Down on the bottom. Look at that electricity go. Woo! That is fun! All right. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a subscriber. And I appreciate you guys so much. If you have any ideas for improving the channel even more, I certainly welcome it. Because you know why? Without your input on this channel, it's just another YouTube channel. I want you to be partners in what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do, and I want you to feel like you're an integral part of what we accomplish on this channel as well. And that's kind of weird, because right now I look like the witness to a crime that they're trying to protect the identity of. So give me a second here. All right, how does that work? Hey, I'm back. So, at any rate, you know, again, I just welcome your input. You know, if you have ideas for additional machines you want to see on the channel, I know I have a request from 2 subscribers. One is they want to see if I can do a video on a Kenmore, And another subscriber has asked me a couple times about doing a video on an Elna. And the Elna one is totally justified, and the Kenmore as well, because I have no videos for that make and model, or for that model in general, on the YouTube channel. I have no videos on Kenmores. I have no videos on Elnas, and it'd be cool to do that, because those are great machines. They are machines I typically don't have an opportunity to restore. A lot of them, unfortunately, they have, they've either been disposed of, or people don't see the value in them and they don't want to make the investment to get them restored for whatever reason, which is odd because they're both great machines. And the Elna is from Switzerland, so that's a fantastic machine. They are as persnickety and meticulous about their machines and engineering as the Swedish people are with the Husqvarna Vikings. So, but other ideas, if they come up, let me know. And I really appreciate the interaction and the feedback on some of the pictures I posted recently, like the men against women, as far as the men all in a lineup sewing in a factory back in the day, and the women as well, and just how even the ground is. That's the beauty of sewing. Anyone, male, female, young, old, can enjoy it, and it's a pleasure to be engaged in activity like this. Mechanics love it because of the engineering and the mechanized nature of what these machines represent. Ladies, because of the creative and also the mechanical as well. I mean, there's so many facets of interest when it comes to vintage sewing machines. Not to mention the history, right? And that's kind of what I've been trying to highlight recently through some of the things I've posted on the Facebook business page. And I know some of you that are faithful on YouTube say, Scott, I don't do Facebook. You know what? That's fine. But I'll be honest in telling you again, you're missing out on a lot of stuff. There's a lot of neat stuff. There's a lot of conversations. There's a lot of posts that I can post on the format of Facebook that I'm not able to do as easily on YouTube anymore. And one time I could, but then YouTube took away some tools that made it easier to post still pictures. And now it's a little bit more of a challenge to get those productions pulled together easily. So, at any rate, I'm going to transition now. We're leaving German Fest, and hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you found it helpful and informational. Again, as far as some of the electrical related stuff I showed you, do not try it unless you're comfortable and you can do it safely. Electricity is a dangerous thing, and I'm giving these just as tips to be helpful. But at the same time, you've got to make the choice as to whether or not you want to try it. So be careful out there. And thanks so much for being a subscriber.